Welcome to One on One. I'm Greg Bassey, your host from the Salisbury Independent newspaper, and today we're continuing our series of election interviews for the Salisbury City Council election. And today we have someone who's running in District 2, Kayvon Arabi.
Hello, how's it going? I'm Kayvon Arabi.
Welcome.
Thank you, sir.
So why are you doing this?
Well, I think the poverty situation in our city is terrible, and we need to do something about it. The unemployment, underemployment, and everything associated with that crime is out of control in our city. 1/3 of individuals in our city are out of they're in poverty level, which is the federal poverty level, and they cannot get a job. All the industry is leaving. We just heard Labanal has laid off 600 people.
Right.
We've heard Purdue might be outsourcing some of their operations to Delaware and Texas. So the urgency of the matter is very critical here, and we need to do something so our city doesn't become another Baltimore.
And your district, District 2, has the Church Street neighborhood in it, which is
Yes.
definitely a neighborhood that has seen better days.
Yes, yeah, Church Street is very long. It goes all the way from Route 13, and then it goes all the way up to Pyle and further on. But the way it's divided is you have street level division. So if you're on Church Street, part of it is District 5, part of it is District 2.
Right.
So it's chopped in such a way that they call that gerrymandering, and it's done along racial lines so that African Americans and minorities are more compelled to run for office and represent themselves instead of having what we had a long time ago, at-large running candidates. So, and that was Billie Jean Jackson's actions that led to, eventually having a minority district. We have 2 out of 5 that are minority, number 1 and number 2.
Right.
And number 2, and the other 3 are a majority Caucasian.
Right. And it's a weird district. It draws down from Church Street down south, like through the park, and then down to near Beagland Park Drive.
It's very confusing. If you go from Decatur all the way down to Church, you have to make a left, then you have to swerve to Vine Street, then you have to go down to Greenmore Avenue, and then you go to Arthur Court, which is where I live. And so it's very confusing, and people can't remember it. So when I ask them, do you live in a city, do you live in a county, they don't know. Some people say, well, we're in the county, but the map has changed, and they're not aware that they're in the city now. So, which, goes to another issue of double taxation.
Right.
If you get services from the city, you have to pay tax. But if you live in a county, you also have to pay tax.
Right.
So that's a hot button issue also.
Right. There's actually been some progress on that lately.
Oh, yeah. Actually, Jim Ireton, our current mayor, he's advocating to remove double taxation.
Right.
He's joining an association of other mayors from the Eastern Shore to try to, alleviate some of that stress on on families, because, like we said, the economic situation is still recovering, and most people, it really affects them when they have to pay tax twice. So.
Right, it would make the city more appealing too, because there wouldn't be so much tax.
Yes, exactly.
And the idea is that people pay county taxes without receiving any county services.
Exactly, right. Like the fire department is a similar situation where we're providing fire services for surrounding cities outside of Salisbury city limits, but they don't pay the tax. So that drains our budget, and it's become a hot button issue with the county and the city. And so what we need to do is we need to sit around the table, and I think the mayor has tried to, in some way, bring a resolution to that problem, because we all know, we're from Salisbury, we know that fire in the late 1800s destroyed us.
Right.
And we had to put the city back together brick by brick. So we don't want another fire that's going to destroy us. Right. But it's also about lives. If somebody has a fire and they can't get out of there, you don't want to cut off fire services. That's a life and death issue.
Right.
So, We need to, I think we have a surplus now, it's $8 million.
We do, yeah.
And so that is good for emergency services. It's not enough to bring a large amount of capital, which is what we need for industry and investment and infrastructure advancements. We need billions upon billions of dollars. So,
what's your experience that you're going to bring to the job?
Well, I teach at universities on a part-time basis. I taught at UMS before. I've taught at Warwick also. I've been a teaching assistant also. So my short-term career has been teaching. But in the past, most of my involvement has been volunteer in a community service. Habitat for Humanity, United Nations, all kinds of stuff that is unpaid, whether internship, volunteering. I've also served in some posts that were foreign policy oriented. So I tend to look at things in a global fashion. We know we are a small city, 30,000, and I think we need to, from my perspective, bring to the table a more global perspective. What do I mean by that? We need to embrace the global economy to such an extent to take advantage of it, so that all the money that is flowing around in the financial markets comes to our city, and we have to also provide training so that when jobs do come down here, they can take advantage of that. So that's just like a little introduction of what I can offer. As far as being in government, it's my first time from a public office. So I definitely love public service, and I really appreciate the military. I was in the Army before for like 4 months. I tried it out; it didn't work. It's not for me. I'm more of a kind of a professional pencil pusher. Like
I think it would be hard. Yeah,
it would be very difficult physically. And so I would say that's just a general introduction of what I have to offer. I think the best form to see how somebody does is to give it a try. Let that person try it out.
Well, that global perspective is interesting, because I'm confronted all the time with people who aren't thinking big picture. They're so caught in minutia, or just kind of a closed-minded detail that they don't get. They don't think strategically like they need to.
Well, a lot of it is because some folks may not have had the opportunity to travel, or they may not have had the opportunity to get exposed to other countries or have the education, formal education or informal, to see that in today's world, even going back to Bill Clinton's administration first, we've entered an economy where Salisbury is inevitably tied to the world. China especially is one of the countries that invests heavily in their money in the United States and other countries because they have the money. We are 19 trillion in debt now. That's the current estimate. So China is one of the countries, is one of many countries. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that we take advantage of the investment that is out there and who wants to invest in us as a small town. Some examples that have happened in our country and other cities are like Chattanooga, Tennessee, or in Arizona, the Gigafactory by Tesla. These are all small examples of foreign investment and the local government coming together and saying, how can we attract large business? That's one way to do it. And I think that's necessary anymore. You can't rely on Annapolis or Washington. They don't have any money. They have a little bit, but we need far more capital than that's what's available to us. So.
So what can the city do to help a neighborhood like Church Street?
The city has a lot of agencies. They have a lot of activities from the church. If you look on PAC 14, you have a long list of community church events, which is fantastic. What the city can do with its limited budget is to make sure that the empty houses are not kept vacant, because empty houses lower property values with the surrounding neighborhood, and people don't want to live there because they think, okay, empty house, they start raising questions. And so what we need to do is we could potentially emulate Delaware, where they're taking the empty houses, they're giving it to the homeless for a small fee, and renting them out or having them take care of it. That way, residents are not so weird about what's going to happen with this house. Some residents have said, okay, we want to attract families, not renters and college students and so on and so on. So there's a general interest in that, but I think with the homeless situation, which is a huge problem, our shelters are overflowing.
Right.
And the Salvation Army has more and more need of their services. We have to turn some of them into a place for homeless, make it cheap, make it affordable for them. And what's happened recently, and not in Salisbury, and is in Delaware, I believe, there was a bank that auctioned off a whole series of houses,
Right.
so they don't have to pay taxes, upkeep, regulation. All of these things benefit banks when they get rid of them, and I think we should take advantage of that. I think there's a trend going on, and I think Delaware has a lot to teach us as far as what to do with local
Right.
problems.
Was there like one thing that triggered your decision to run?
Yes.
What was that moment?
The moment was in the midterm elections of 2014, is when I realized that the whole Eastern Shore went Republican from a Democratic state. And so that showed to me that the situation is worsening and people are really at the end of their wits with their own party and they want a dramatic change. That's why we're seeing such interest in Donald Trump in the presidential level race. So I got interested in that, and I work in retail also, and I see people complaining about their jobs that it doesn't pay, they have health issues, they can't pay their bills or their rent or their mortgage, and so they said we need better industrial jobs that are more than just minimum wage, and so that eventually over time, since I've been down here in 2012, that has taught me that the situation is much worse than we think. And people put on a brave face.
Right.
But I've lived in other cities. The other factor that got me interested is when we come down on Route 50 to visit from family, the image of this city is a city that's run down and is lacking a lot of capital. There's, the shape of our downtown is a little empty.
Right.
The businesses are shuttered. You see most of the money's invested past the bypass.
Right.
All the corporations all lined up on 13 all the way to Del Mar.
Right.
But downtown, it seems like on the Riverside and you see the walkway, there's just not much activity. So
there was that leapfrog effect of the bypass when they put the Eastern bypass in.
Yes. Yeah.
All the things that used to be on Route 13 moved.
Well, you got to go where the money is.
Right.
And I think if you look at the planning and zoning map from the commission of the county and the city, you see that it's divided so heavily, there's almost no room for businesses. There is room for businesses, but right now the MO of the city council is to invest all our capital into downtown, which is a way of saying basically if we get the downtown back, which is what a lot of people want, we can get some of that capital back and investment back. And what we've seen is we've seen about a large traffic in first Saturday, third Friday, which is good. But you're not seeing a diversity of all people coming there. You're seeing a certain socioeconomic level taking advantage of it. So what we need to do is look at the whole city. We need to listen to people and see what do they really need. Downtown is important. It's not the whole solution, but I think we need to make the job situation and the attraction of industry to our city the number one priority.
Right. I do hear that complaint from people that there's so much concentration on the bricks and mortar downtown and that people are being forgotten to a degree. Yes,
I agree with that. Most people that I talk to in my district, they say downtown doesn't mean anything to me. They don't even know where it is.
Right.
Some people. And so they say, why should I go to downtown, spend $75, $100, or expensive coffee or expensive sushi or bakery? They don't have the money. If they had the money, they would do it. They'll go down there and have a good time, But, a lot of people, they can't even pay their rent. They're on welfare, or some people that I've met, they're foreclosing. They're going to be moving out. A lot of people say, I don't want to be in Salisbury. There's just no jobs for me. A lot of young people say there's not much activity for them at their age. So one of the proposed solutions that we have is to bring playgrounds, recreation centers for kids. And so those are some of the ways that we can address it at the local level, street by street, and neighborhood by neighborhood. So I think it's good that we're recovering. Some of the economists have said we're slowly recovering. That's good news. But the only industry that actually was in the positive was the financial industry. All other industries were in the negative during the recession.
Right.
So I think I think we need to make sure that government, city council, and the mayor are not in the way of industry coming down here.
Right.
We need to make it more conducive to growth.
It's not exactly a city issue. It is to a degree, but the county executive has created an economic development department. He's hiring for that position. Do you look to the county to provide some leadership on this economic thing?
What's happened is our county executive, Bob Culver, he has proposed to get some land from Salisbury, and we have turned it down.
Right. That was for the ball fields. Very controversial here recently.
Yes, exactly. And we need land. If we're going to attract industry, there's going to be some disagreements on what we do with our land and what kind of industry we bring, because we're in the Chesapeake Bay.
Right.
So I think there's been some disagreement, but I think Bob Culver, I think he's on the right path of financially being sound. I think that's his biggest offering at the table, that he wants to make sure our checkbook, for lack of a better phrase, is balanced for the county.
Right.
As far as leadership, I'm not sure.
I've always wondered why the city doesn't have like an economic development director. Even if it's shared with the county, I've never understood why there isn't someone in a role like that.
Maybe there's no interest, or maybe we don't have the right talent.
Yeah, I mean, there is a business person who tries to help small businesses come to town, but it's not the big picture thing that we were talking about.
The Chamber of Commerce is the only thing we have that is heavily concentrated in businesses, but they have an industry roundtable, they have forecasts, they have all kinds of things on their calendar. But I think that would be a good idea if we had some kind of center or a group of people that would act like the county, because the county is seated in Salisbury, so we don't have to go too far to get advice from them. But I think it's more of a collaboration rather than relying on the county,
right?
Because we know our problems much better than the county does, because the county is a much larger entity in many cities. So we need to talk to the county executive and personnel and say, this is what we want to do with our city. We need some funds. Do you have any funds? Do you have any ideas on the best practices to bring industry? And see where it goes. And I'm bringing to the table another thing which is called dialogue and conflict resolution, which is my specialty. That's part of my specialty. I got my doctorate in that. So what I like to do is not to get into a fist fight or a shouting match. I think the best thing is to glean people's expertise and experience, talk with each other around the table, see how we can come to the best solution. And that way, I think we'll be more productive as a team rather than separate silo approach.
Right.
So,
the district you're running in is going to have 4 candidates.
Yes.
So it's going to be a close election.
It's going to be a close election.
It's going to be splitting a lot of votes, probably in an area that has low turnout historically.
Very low.
How are you going to separate yourself from your contenders?
I focus on jobs. My competitors are not. So my priority has been since last year is to make sure that my people can pay their bills and they can get a good job and they can get the right training for the right job, and that their complaints are heard, and that our relationship is stronger, not just I sit on the council, we record a session, we don't walk the street. I want to bring a more personal, hands-on, one-on-one approach with community leaders. I have about 30 individuals that are part of my, that I'm trying to recruit from my business coalition, jobs coalition. And they like my ideas, so I always reach out to them whenever I can. And so that is a way for me to stand out. And I think that generally the consensus is that crime is important, but it's not the primary issue.
Right.
Crime is a byproduct of years of industrial and decline in our city that has brought destitution, people coping with their stress through alcohol, drugs. Some people it's from medication. It's not just from unemployment. So I think we need to bring a sense that jobs is the core of the cancer cell that is infecting everything else in our city. The curfew is one of those issues that I talked to, and on that issue that you said, how do I stand out? I don't support it personally because I think it would be a little bit threatening to our democratic ways, because the more police we have presence on the street, the less businesses are going to be compelled to open up shop. Kids don't like it when the cops have to tell them to go home. But I understand at 2 a.m. you don't want your child to be outside. I understand that. We need to have a parents' city council approach. Talk to them personally. See, how can we help you to make sure your child is at home? Because when I was a kid, when I was not even a teen, I went home at 8, at 9 o'clock. Right? So the older generation likes it, and they want a curfew because they think that's a quick solution. I think it's not settled yet. So again, just to bring it all back, I really focus on industry and jobs. I want people to be employed. That's the secret of success. Jobs that pay, and people can live in their neighborhoods. They don't have to worry about making a living from selling drugs. So.
Kayvon, thanks for coming in today.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
We wish you well in your campaign.
Thank you. I'm going to need it.
And good luck. Some great ideas here.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Kayvon Arabi was our guest here today on 101, part of our election series that will continue, and we wish him well. I'm Greg Bassett from the Salisbury Independent Newspaper with another edition of 101 right here on PAC 14. Welcome to 101. I'm Greg Bassett, your host from the Salisbury Independent Newspaper, and we're continuing our series of interviews today with city council candidates in the city of Salisbury. Today we're back in District 2, which is the other minority-majority district, and we have Marvin Ames.
How you doing?
Welcome.
Hi. Welcome.
How's it going out there?
It is intense. I'm trying to reach out to a lot of people. I've been knocking on doors in certain areas. I've been over to the Church Street area talking to people, and also over there by the Priscilla Street area. So I'm, trying to reach out to people, find out their concerns, and move forward on them.
Now, your district is interesting. It's probably the most fascinating district to me because it cuts right through the heart of town.
Yeah.
It's that Church Street neighborhood all the way down to like Tamarack Village, someplace crazy like that. It's a very strangely drawn district, and there are 4 people who are candidates in this. How hard is it to distinguish yourself among the 4 people?
It's very difficult at this point because, one, most people don't even know who's running.
Right.
And then to have the people in the district actually know that they're in the district, because the way the lines have been drawn now, most people were in possibly 3 or 1 or 4, and now they're in 2, and they don't even know that. So
right. When you look at it, like it's like people on one side of the street are in one district, and people on the other side of the street are not, and their neighbors behind them are in another district. It's a very strange line.
It took me about a week and a half to figure it all out. So that's part of the what I'm trying to do is I'm working on flyers to hand out to people to let them know actually what that they are in District 2 and where to actually go vote, because I ran into that one time before. Most people didn't know where they are actually supposed to vote, and they wanted to vote for me, but then they would go to the poll and then they'd be like, oh, you're not even in his district. So those are the things that right now I'm trying to counteract before it become a problem.
Right. Now, there's no incumbent in this seat, so whoever wins will be a first-timer on the council.
Yes.
And one of the things we're hearing from this district is that the economy and jobs are a big issue.
Yes. The jobs for me right now is something that I would like to really focus in on, and because the city of Salisbury has always been a great place. You've had Mr. Frank Perdue that invested heavily into the area, and his promise was he was always going to try to keep a Perdue plant in the area to keep the economy alive. And hopefully we can find some other ways to bring more jobs to the area. One of the things I was thinking about is actually trying to reach out to Walmart, the Somerset County area. They were trying to do that distribution center there. And if they don't want to work with the Walmart people, I'd like to see the city of Salisbury and possibly the county work with them so we can have that building here somewhere in the county or possibly in the city because we still have those old plants that are there still ready to go.
Right.
We can try to fire some of those back up and give them some possibly incentives to move into the building. So that's part of what I would like to see.
Right, that would be a great boon for the city, it really
Yeah.
would. Now it's interesting because usually jobs is not something you think of a city council worrying about, but there's so much focus on economic development. There might be some sort of an avenue for the city council to act on this.
Yeah, the reason for me is to think about that is because we're losing so many different good, intelligent people in the area because we don't have a lot to offer. The jobs situation is low, so you start to have more low-income folks that are here that can possibly make people nervous. And low-income people that are here actually want jobs. It's not that they're looking to be on welfare and these other services. They actually want work, and it's just we have to find something where we can give them a start, something where they can get in on the ground floor and work their way up. Because, you know, myself and other people that I know that lived and grown up on the Eastern Shore, you know, we didn't have silver spoons, so we had to start off and work our way up and be focused and go to college and look for job training facilities and places to go so you can have at least a leg up to move forward and to become, you know, possibly an owner of a business or anything else. But you have to have a start. And just the opportunity for people to just start at the ground floor and move up, you have to have a job for them. And we want to make sure that people that are graduating from school and are moving forward in their careers, they are confident that the people that are, you know, the children that are coming to the schools and the parents there still have something to work for and work towards.
Now, you have an important job for the county, and you have moved up in your job. Tell me about that.
Yes, I'm the maintenance supervisor at the Wycomico Youth and Civic Center. And yeah.
Now, that sounds like a hard job. There's, what, 400,000 square feet there that you're in charge of?
Yeah, plus the grounds
Right.
that go along with it and all the different people that we have, you know, hundreds of thousands of people that go through there in a year's time, and providing them with a safe environment and clean environment to come see these different shows. One thing, I left from the state to come over there, and then I ended up moving up in about maybe 5 years after being there, or 6 years being there, and I've had the maintenance supervisor job since. And we went from being in the red to being in the black,
Yeah.
and people getting bonuses and
Yeah.
everything else. And so my job is basically to be invisible, but to be professional. And right now, we have a very good no failure rate. And if I fail, everybody in the county knows, and everybody on the shore will know.
Right.
So
You've got a lot of people who are in there, when they look at a ceiling tile, that's all on you.
that's all on me.
Yeah, I had friends in town, this is a couple years ago, and the ceiling tiles were all blown out, and they were like, how can your facility look like this? And I was like, we had the tractor pull last weekend, and those things blow the tiles out. They'll get them fixed in a week. I mean, just relax.
Yeah, and then the rotation of schedule is very difficult sometimes to get some of those smaller things done like
Yeah.
that. But we managed to get it done through the stagehand crew and the operations crew, and even you know, by making sure that we have the kitchen services and all them. We all work together as
Yeah,
one
the
unit.
catering has really
unit.
expanded out there. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yes, I mean they're one of the best catering departments, I believe, in on the shore and beyond. I mean, I think we're comparable to anybody in the state and in the country. I mean,
Right.
we've served people from all around the world, and I think that our facility is definitely a diamond in the rough. And if we actually had the county and the state possibly be able to invest more, and the city invest more in it,
Right.
we'd be able to have a lot bigger impact.
Yeah, it's quite a little profit center there, and unlike most of the county government, it's really run like a business.
Yes, it really
So the
is.
pressure on you is completely different. It's not like you're a county employee is at 5 o'clock yet. You are really having to work.
Yes, yeah. I mean,
Not that the
you
other
know,
county employees don't work, but you know what I
Right.
mean. It's a different kind of pressure, I think.
Right. Our schedule, you know, you have a 7 to 3:30 and a 3 to 11, but we don't work those. I mean, we have basically some people that do, but overall, when our season is about to begin, we can work anything. It can be a 3 to 11, or it could be a 10 to 6, 7 to 11 to 7 shift. We provide this service, and we, to our own detriment, we'll make sure that the show goes on. And that's how I plan on going to the city council, is basically, no matter what it takes, get the job done, please the people, and move forward. And hopefully, if I win this seat, and if I have the people support me to win the seat, I'll work as hard for them as I do for the county right now. And I don't get paid a lot of money. I'm probably one of the low-end supervisors in the county, but I give as much time as I possibly can, and I think there's a lot of others that work for me and that work at that building that give more than they would ever get paid.
And it's a role where you have to show leadership every day, and you probably want to take that leadership ability to the council.
Absolutely, because the decisions that we have to make out there, like I said, when you have 3,500 people that are coming to see something, and you're paying your money to do that, you want to make sure that they get their money's worth. And for me, with the city council, I want to make sure that this city actually gets its money's worth, and have the proper facilities and proper security, and make sure that we are the best in the state of Maryland and beyond. Right now, we are on the low end of a lot of those ratings, and whatever we need to do by communicating through the citizens and through the police department, which have been doing a fantastic job, even though they're short-staffed and they don't have all the things that they would like to have. But we have to find a way to bridge the gap from the communication from the police department to the community. Because if you have officers that are patrolling different areas in the community that have no relationship with the people that live in there, and that doesn't matter what end level that you're talking about. It could be the high end level of the community or the low end level. If someone's walking outside and they're in their pajamas, and you have an officer giving you a hard time, you're just getting a hard time. It doesn't matter your income level for that. But we have to work on the communication and how can we make that better. And
I'm glad you brought that up, because we see that this crime stats are down, and we all go, hooray, the police must be doing a great job. Mm-hmm. But one of the themes through these interviews is people are telling me that the police perhaps aren't as engaged as they might be, that maybe this sort of spirit of community policing has changed a little bit, and now might be a time where officers need to know more about the people that they're trying to protect.
And yes, I was in one of the open forums, and I brought that up to the chief, and I heard...
These are the forums for the curfew, or some of the other things?
For the curfew.
Okay, yeah.
And the one of the main things that I specifically talked about was about the community policing. And she explained that there's a rotation. I think she said it was either a 3 to 6 week rotation of the officers going through. My counter to that is that we need to have possibly a lieutenant that's in charge of each one of these districts. And that lieutenant has certain staff members that stay with them for more than that possible 6 week period. So that if you have an officer that's driving through there, and you have someone that's in that community, male, female, age doesn't matter, and you see something that may look suspicious, is it that person in their trunk looking for a rifle, or is he looking for a baseball bat for their kids,
right.
Little League? So those judgment calls that these officers are forced to make at certain times, and if you have no attachment to the community, you're going to go a little harder than you would normally go if you actually say, these people in this community don't actually act that way, and I don't have to fear for my life so much, and I feel comfortable at least saying, hey, how you doing? Is there
right.
anything I can help you with, instead of saying, hey, you put your hands up and back up to me, and then secure, So these situations that have happened in different communities, we've seen it on TV, we've seen it all over the place, is possibly because those officers are forced in a situation where they don't know the people that they are supposed to protect and serve, and don't care.
Right.
And I would like to see that to change. And I know that the chief is working towards that, and I know several different officers on her staff, one I grew up with, one I met when I was at Salisbury University, and they're good people, and they want the best for this community. That's why they became officers, and their intent is not to harm the community; it's to protect it.
Right.
And hopefully, we give them the tools to do it.
I know as a citizen, I've always tried to make myself known to the police to get to know them somehow. Mm-hmm. And certainly, as a newspaper reporter, you end up knowing a lot of cops. But I feel like a lot of people don't want to introduce themselves to the police. There's a mutual suspicion that just doesn't help.
Sure, it's difficult. I mean, I've had bad run-ins with officers throughout my life. Some of the worst ones were with officers that were actually black, and some of the best ones with officers that were also Caucasian. So you have to allow people to get to know you.
Right.
And that's, as an officer or as a citizen. There's been plenty of times I've been to Baltimore or DC, and I was lost. This is before GPS and everything, and I would be with my wife, and she'd be like, well, Marvin, we're lost. I mean, what are we going to do? I said, there's a cop right there. There's an officer right there. Let me go over there and ask him, how can I get to downtown Baltimore? And so, you just have to make a judgment call. When I pulled up, I'm sure the officer was, who's this rolling up on me? And now why are you asking me these questions? But after he realized, hey, I'm just a person that's lost and I need some help, he gave me the help. And if we don't at least establish or give the benefit of the doubt to the person that's supposed to be protecting and serving us, what are we doing?
Right.
And we're now asking them to become more like a soldier more so than anything. If soldiers go out to do battle, and you can say, arguably the west side, the east side of Salisbury, the Church Street areas and stuff like that, you can look at them as a war zone if you choose to, or you can look at those areas as areas where you have citizens of this city and this county that need protecting and serving as well, and they arguably need more help because the environment that they have with the low income and how, if you look at it, if you drive through and look at it, there's not a lot of lights over there, not a lot of sidewalks, there's not a lot of public facilities for people to use, and they're getting by the best way they can. So arguably they need more help, and they need more actual communication with the police officers than anything. Because if I see something bad going on and I want to reach out to the police officers or the people that are supposed to protect and serve me, and if I get in trouble, they put me out there as that I'm a snitch or a person that's telling.
Right.
Now the community that's there is going to label me and possibly attack me even more so. So we need the community involvement, because if you can't whisper in the officer's ear, hey, this is something possibly going on, how can the officers help do that? And you don't want those officers to put, oh, this person said that you did that, and now why would I ever want to tell you anything ever again?
Right.
If now my safety's in harm's way. So those are the things that we have to work towards, so we're not looking at places in the city as war zones, but as places in the city that need actual help, and providing the ambulance, fire service, and the police department with the facilities and the equipment that they need to help these people.
I think this is where the district system might be of benefit, because I don't know that Church Street neighborhood has had the advocate really that it needs, in the council chambers, that it's had to sort of share that with the west side,
right,
which has its own problems.
Right.
But Church Street is a big focus as the absolute center of town.
Absolutely. I mean, several years ago, it was a triple homicide that was over there. I was at the Clam Bake down in Crisfield, and I ran into the governor, O'Malley, and he had just advocated or sent money to Salisbury because of the hot zone spaces. Right. And that was one of those areas. And like I said, I mean, we have to realize that these families that are living in these areas, that's not their ideal spot to want to live. And it could be if it would actually have more money invested in it. I know a lot of the realtors, I've spoke with some of the realtors in the area, and they would like to see certain things to help them with their profession, to be able to sell more homes and the lower costs and on their paperwork and things of that nature. But we still have to look at fair market value and how some of these people are paying larger sums of money to live in lower quality homes. And then if you have that over the course of 10, 15 years, you're collecting these large sums, then there's no investment back into the home itself, whether they're purchasing it or not. If they are renting it, we should at least want to invest a portion of that money back into the home, and that will change the way you feel. If you live in a better looking home, has better plumbing and shower facilities and things of that nature, it would make you feel better about yourself. And those small things, that little investment will help the overall community, because we do have lots of teachers and police officers and other people that own businesses that live in the city limits. And we all want to take pride in our community. And that's one of the things why I'm running. I mean, I love Salisbury. I love Wicomico County, and I love the Lower Shore. And my personal reasons for running is to advocate for the Lower Shore and Wicomico County and Salisbury to make sure that we get what we need. And I feel that we are the jewel of Maryland, and we don't get the credit for it. And we have a lot of facilities here that are some of the best in the state of Maryland, and I'd like to fight to make sure that we get our recognition.
Marvin Ames, we wish you well in your bid to be on the City Council. He's running in District 2 here in Salisbury. Good luck.
Thank you.
Greg Bassett from the Salisbury Independent newspaper, another interview with City Council candidates right here on 101 on PAC 14. Welcome to 101. I'm Greg Bassett, your host from the Salisbury Independent newspaper, and today we're continuing our interviews with City Council candidates. From District 2 today, we have Muir Boda. Welcome, Muir.
Thank you, Greg.
Now, this is not your first trip to the rodeo.
No, I've been on a couple different rodeos, so yeah.
What motivates you to want to be on the City Council?
I love the city of Salisbury. My wife and I chose to live here about 10 years ago, and we both work in the city. And our life is pretty much here, except for when we on occasion go for excursions somewhere else. I love my neighborhood. I love my neighbors. I live in Doverdale. It's a great place to live. We have a beautiful park with the great facilities.
Great little neighborhood there.
Yes, it is. And and like every neighborhood throughout the city, there are occasionally issues. And but we control our corner of the world and work with our neighbors to at least keep our block as a great place to live. And so I love this city, and I see we are on the cusp of a renaissance, and I want to be a part of that. I want to make sure we keep moving forward with downtown revitalization and working to reduce crime and bring quality employment to our city.
The District 2 is an interesting district because it's, like you said, it's that Priscilla Street area all the way down into Church Street. And then there's like a swath that goes down to
it's a little bit
Tamarack
of this,
Village somewhere.
It gets about half of my neighborhood. It gets the Church Street area, some of those streets. It gets an area off of Long Avenue, Parkway Circle, and part of Glen Avenue.
Right.
It jumps over into some of the President's sections.
Goes down the highway.
On Spring Avenue and Rogers Street. I think both are partly in the district and part not in the district. So it's an interesting, I say the boundaries for that district make about as much sense as the boundaries for this city. So it's...
Right, it seems like there's places that you can look across the street and your neighbor's not in the district and look out your back door and they're not in the district either, but you are.
Yeah, literally, like Homer Street is an example. One side of the street is in the district, the other side is not. And there's a bunch of streets that are like that. So.
But what intrigues me is that Doverdale and Church Street neighborhood, those people have complained for years that they don't feel really represented on the city council. So this could change that.
It could. I mean, this area of town, which is the Doverdale and that Church Street area and East Church Street, have not had representation on the council since, or in the city government since Mayor Martin was mayor. And so there is a lot of dissatisfaction over there.
So what are you hearing? What do you want to do to change that?
Well, first it's door to door, and I think one of the most important things when you make personal connections, you point out when you're giving them literature that, hey, this is my personal cell phone number, and this is where I live. I live right around the corner from you, and I think that means a lot to people that they have a personal connection. They know where you live, and they have your number. My line to them is, and if you're not happy with what I'm doing, you can come knock on my door, or give me a phone call anytime. And I think that means a lot, because I think sometimes when people think that there's this level of separation between them and their representatives, and there shouldn't be, because we're just a neighbor.
Right. Right. Now, these are also neighborhoods that are heavily weighted in terms of rental units.
Yes.
The mayor just had a rent control measure go before the council. It failed. Where were you on all that? What are some of the issues with this?
I have a lot of problems with rent control, because we have to actually look at, anytime a piece of legislation comes before the council, one of the first things you do when you swear into office is to defend the Constitution. So we have to make sure that every piece of legislation is constitutional. And there have been strong arguments across the country that this was an unlawful taking. And the numbers that they used would really concern me, of the percentages of property value. When I went and did the calculations, it wouldn't even pay for the taxes, let alone upkeep, let alone the mortgage, and all the stuff that goes with owning a property like that. So, and the model they used was from College Park, which College Park suspended it, and then they repealed it. And it was only in place for 5 years, because I think the other issue is, this board that they used is going to be overwhelmed, and you're talking to try to find 7 volunteers that would literally, to handle probably all the appeals, would have to meet 3 or 4 times a month. And you're talking sessions that would last for hours and hours and hours. And I've been on the Housing Board of Adjustments and Appeals now for almost 2 years, and we've had a couple meetings. I mean, one meeting for one case went 5 hours, and so you have to have people who are willing to do that, and I think it's it's another board, and they have enough problems getting people to serve on the boards that they have now. So I think anytime any stuff like that has to be really scrutinized, and you look across the country, I think there's only 4 states that actually have laws that allow rent control. There's a significant number of states that outlaw it, that prohibit it. And there's another group of states that don't really have anything one way or another. And Massachusetts actually went, and there was a referendum where they actually repealed the rent control law in the state of Massachusetts. And so I mean, there's some significant concerns there that I have, and the reason that I opposed it.
We've talked to 2 of the people that you're running against, and both of them raised jobs as an important issue in that district. And it was a surprise to me, because I'm hearing jobs as an issue and economic development a lot as an issue, and that historically has not been a city kind of issue. You hear that on a county level or a state level, but there's certainly a focus on jobs and job growth in that district, in District 2. Where's your mind on all that?
Well, some of it, we have to look at, what can you do in the role on the county council. First, you're 1 of 5 people, and there's very limited. There's a limited role on what the council and the city can do. There are things, I think the mindset should be not to inhibit businesses and run people off. I think we need to really open our doors. I kind of use the mindset that Governor Hogan has. Maryland's open for business. Well, Salisbury should be open for business, and looking for ways to attract businesses. A lot of it is I believe, with partnerships with the educational systems in our county, from the Board of Education to Warwick to Salisbury University, to make sure that, looking at what's going on in Wallops, and if we've got more stuff happening down there, should we do some stuff here for training our people to maybe attract manufacturing that goes along with that. So I think there's some opportunities there to be really that voice and saying, hey, what are we doing on this end, and communicating that to those institutions.
Crime has been an issue that's been talked about in this district, fairly or unfairly, but certainly there's something going on with the juveniles in Salisbury, talk of a curfew. Where are you on all that?
Again, any piece of legislation that comes forth, we have to make sure that it passes constitutional muster. And I don't, I have problems with the curfew because I think that there's other avenues we could have taken and can take instead of going to a curfew. There's a stigma that goes along with stuff like a curfew. This city's under a curfew, or we've got rent control. That stuff puts a stigma on a city, and it will. There's people who won't even invest in a city when they have that stuff going on. In my neighborhood in Doverdale, they had years ago they had the Stop the Violence Center at the Callaway Street.
Right.
And it was started with the Weed and Seed funding. It was part of that program. Very effective program. I noticed that when that thing was in full swing for the number of years, we saw just my neighbors and I. We saw a lot of reduction in kids out at late. Kids, they had something to do, and usually by the time they got home, they were tired. Once that went away, we've seen an increase in juveniles, especially hanging out down to the park, damaging the park. A couple back in August, they busted one of the bathroom doors. They tried to set the tables on fire. So there's nothing for them to do over there. And that program was a good program. And I think the problem that I had,
that program?
Nobody had the political will to keep it going.
Okay.
Because that the Weed and Seed funding runs out.
It runs out.
They don't refund it.
So the city would have to go into its pockets.
The expectation is, and there was like one or two people that were paid, which is really would have kept it going. And I think it was a missed opportunity to keep that program going. And the people that were running it now are off. They're doing other stuff. So I think it's something we need to look at. When we bring in some stuff like that we've got to find ways to keep it going, and to make sure that we properly fund it. And I think that was something that we should look at to see what can we do to maybe revive that. And I think that'll be it'll help with a lot of those families and those kids at that age. And I think there's many resources out there for families, but they just don't know about them. And,
right.
And I think that's something. Mark Thompson was talking about the curfew plus. When he was talking about the plus side, that's more of what I want to do. And I think there's some good things that we can do when we have children that are at risk. He even mentioned that we know who some of the families are because we're sending them home with dinner, and we're sending them home with food for the weekend. Well, if we know who those families are, then let's target that family with other resources that we have available in this community.
Right, because there are people who want to help.
Oh, there is, and I think I've heard that there's people from the Greater Salisbury Committee that want to fund some things, and I'd like to see some scholarship programs to get some of these kids involved in the Boy Scouts or the Salvation Army, because none of that stuff's free. And that's everything's going to cost. There's going to be a cost associated with it. Some of these families can't afford it because they're living in poverty. And so I think there's some things on that front that we need to address and use and take advantage of, and get these kids involved in some good organizations like that. And I think like the Boy Scouts and some of that can change a kid's life, change their entire perspective on life.
Right.
And teach them some skills that they otherwise would not have learned. And so I'm in favor of some stuff like that. And because it's not something that the city council is going to solve. We can't legislate our way out of this problem. This has to come from the community. The community as a whole has to be involved in it. And that's why if you build a community center, that's what it is. It's a community center.
Right.
It's for the whole community to run it, to be involved in it, and make sure that it's successful.
On the tail end of that, with the juvenile crime situation, there's lots of talk about how the police officers are conducting themselves. The community policing, and I need to do some reporting on this for the paper. Maybe it's not as strong as it was. People don't seem to have the rapport with the officers anymore. There's more suspicion. It might be a reflection of what's going on nationally. What do you see there?
I think part of it is the past couple of years, we as far as the police department, lost a lot of personnel. So one of the things, if you lose anybody through retirement, through finding another job somewhere else, or terminations or whatever, every time you try to hire a new police officer, it takes about 18 months to 2 years before you find the right person, properly do the background checks, get them through the academy, get them to the field training, and then even then after the field training, they're probably another 4 or 5 months on the road. It can take about 2 years to fill one spot. and it's not like at some stores where you can just go and hire a cashier. You know, these people, there's a lot that they have to learn to become a police officer.
They're carrying guns.
They're carrying guns. They're carrying tasers. You know, and they have to understand the law.
Yeah.
And because you know their job is to enforce the law, so there's a significant amount of training involved, and so it's not just we can just snap our fingers and get back up to full staff. They were down about 30 spots, 30 positions. They were down through all of that stuff that happened over the past couple of years. Just there's no way that they can hire people that fast. So the city council can create more positions, but you know it's going to take time to fill those. And so I think that's understanding that dynamic of the situation. I would like to see once we're one of the things as far as community policing is bring back the bike patrol. And I think if you have a 6 to 8 man team and they're partnered up in twos and they can be at different neighborhoods. I think it gets them from out behind that car, out behind the window, and they're out and they're talking to people. They're involved and they're more approachable, and I think that is one thing that, as far as the image, these guys can build a strong rapport with the youth and others in the community, and they're much more approachable.
Right. You're interesting as a candidate because you're very involved in the people angle, but you're also a bricks and mortar guy. You love what's going on downtown. You're a big cheerleader for that. Yeah,
I was for downtown revitalization before it was cool. In 2009, they told me, "Oh, downtown's dead." You know, they kept saying it's dead. But this great idea of Third Friday came up, and it's really been the flagship. You know, I kind of say it's like where the arts meet entrepreneurship. It's a beautiful thing, and there's a lot of great things happening with that. And I think that is. Once a month we have that festival attitude, and in the last couple, there's thousands of people that come down there. I mean, October, the one coming up, is probably going to have 2,000 or 3,000 people down there. It's a big deal, and it's a big boost for the businesses down there. A lot of them, it's just the one event that helps them make the month.
Right.
And so it's great to see headquarters live. You know, Mojo's and some of the other places down there, and Evolution Craft Brewery is kind of in that district. And it's a lot of great things going on down there, and I think we need to keep that going, because once we have a strong core, strong center, and not only that, but it defines the culture of who we are as a city. And it's not just Third Friday; it's First Saturday. That's coming along, and I think in a couple of years it's going to be just as big. And
they've been snake bit by the weather, though.
Yeah, it's like we always have like a great Third Friday, except for the one they had this year. But the great thing is they have a great venue that has a backup with headquarters live, and they can go into that place, and that's a great venue for that as a backup. So. You know, there's a backup plan with it, and that's what I think is helps. The other, we got like the flea market down there. You know, that's on Saturday mornings, and then we got.
It's a fun little thing. People don't know about it, but it's fun to go there.
And then on the other side of that, over on Market Street, is a farmers market. So, and that's every week, and there's hundreds of people that go to that every week, and so I think there's a lot of good things going on that constantly bring people down there, and. So more than just court and the library. I mean, the library drives a lot of people down there, but I think there's a lot of good things that are getting ready to happen. And like I said, we're at the cusp of this renaissance, and I think it's really going to explode in the next 4 or 5 years.
So you get elected in November, say, and you get on the council. What's the first thing you're going to tell your colleagues that we all need to work on for your people in District 2?
Well, I think it's we're going to be getting right into the budget session, so I think it's going to be we're going to have some time to prepare for it,
right?
And especially if a lot of people, I think it's a better situation than coming in April, and then you're smack dab in the middle of the budget.
Right. Because the election is always in April, May.
Yeah. And so we're going to have a lot of time to prepare for it and analyze, a lot of the infrastructure needs in the city. And, I know a lot of the neighborhoods are probably in need of some street paving. So there's some things like that I think we need to take a look at. And then once we all get in there and we get a good sense of this first budget, I think the second budget is going to be the one we're going to make a lot of impact. And so I'm really, that's the one that I think we can really sit back and take a look at the needs of the city as a whole. And then it's great because we're going to have 5 people from 5 different areas of the city, and representing 5 distinct different areas of the city, and we're going to be able to say, hey, we've got this need in my district, we've got this need in my district, and I think it's going to work a lot better with that diverse representation.
Districts will all be equal.
Exactly.
All equal seats at the table, in theory.
You're not going to have 3 people from the same neighborhood sitting
Right.
on the city council, and I think that's kind of I think it's going to be a good thing. I think it forces that representation out.
Samira, how can people get a hold of you?
Well, the best way to get a hold of me is my personal cell phone number, which is 410-603-3347. And my website is bodaforsalisbury.com. That's BODAFOR Salisbury.com.
What kind of feedback do you want?
Anything. I mean, hey, we've got this issue, or I've actually helped a couple people who were trying to find some avenues for how do I get something off my criminal record. I'm not a lawyer, but I deal with stuff on a day-to-day basis, and so pointed them in the right direction, reached out to some different resources. So there's some things I can help people with some of the connections that I have.
He's Mir Boda. He's running for City Council in District 2, City of Salisbury.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I'm Greg Bassett from the Salisbury Independent Newspaper with another interview with a City Council candidate right here on One on PAC 14.
First Shore Federal is proud to support PAC 14 and One. We'd encourage every business to support PAC 14 and pick a program and support it, and let's make a difference.
If you want to watch any of these interviews with City Council candidates, you can watch them on the PAC 14 YouTube page.